Speaking of women and, what are the two most important qualities, or it could be one most important quality you find in somebody you're dating or a partner, whether it be monogamous or poly or just any kind of area, two most important qualities. And I ask you this because you're a veteran and I want to see what your thoughts are.
So two important qualities in a woman.
Yes.
So these have changed for me, and so I'm gonna share things that I've never spoken about before, but I do think these are really important. Number one, when everything. No, let me word this better. I grew up with a lot of trauma, a lot. My childhood was not a good childhood. You grew up in that kind of neighborhood, it was rough. When I'm hanging out with my therapists, whichever therapist I see, they'll put me at their top 1% of the most trauma they've had to deal with a client from my past. And I'm past it, right? But number one for me is the woman has to be able to handle my trauma and not judge me for it. And that's hard. That's really hard. I can't tell you how many times I've dated a woman and she'll get to a point where she's like, yo, I can't date someone who has had that much trauma. Like,
Is it because it happened or because it's coming up now?
it doesn't come up now, but there are times where they can't. Like, so there'll be moments. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. My brother was killed. My brother was killed like over a decade ago. On the anniversary of his death and on his birthday, I break down in tears the whole day. This morning, I was listening to a song in the airport. And I was just hanging out, waiting to come here. And somebody was singing a song about his dead brother. It was a new song. It was a rap track about how, like, you were always there for me. I collapsed on the floor of the airport crying. I'm like on the floor of the airport crying, right? So this is what I'm saying about the kind of trauma. Like, that's what happens, right? So the first couple of years that happens, a woman's like, okay, cool. But I've definitely dated women that once you get onto like year 3, 4, they're like, hey, can you get over that now? I'm like, no, I cannot get over the death of my brother. Like, I cannot. And that for me, I would use game and use my knowledge of psychology to like hold it in and deal with it. And God, I've done that for too long. And so no woman ever left me over it, but they definitely got to a point where you could see them being like, oh, here we go again, right? That's no longer a thing. Like, the only women I date now, I tell them up front. I don't let them find out later, which is something that I made the mistake of doing. And I specifically vet for women that when there is something bad, traumatic, or what have you that's come up in my life, that they don't run away from it.
That's interesting. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
So it's different, totally different to what I would have said in the past, right?
It makes sense though.
Yeah, and it's wild. The other one, and this is actually one of the things I love about the Red Pill. I am now very into women who want to support a man versus who want to be supported themselves.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Break it down. Give me the 2-minute version of that.
So I've dated a lot of what I would call alpha women, and I'm very good at meeting them and attracting them. Ridiculously good. These are women that make a lot of money. These are women that are powerful in their own right, independent, strong, powerful women. And I tick the box for everything that most of them want, right? Successful, I work out, I can fight, I'm handy. I don't know if you know this about me. Like I build greenhouses and stuff. Like I can do carpentry work. Like I'm a dude.
Funny,
right?
accent, charming.
Got all the 6 foot.
Yeah.
Right. 6-inch penis plus 1 extra inch with metal. 7 inches, kind of. Anyway, so the point is I tick a lot of the boxes. And at this point, they no longer tick boxes for me. Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah, and I've dated a lot of them. And I thought that was the pinnacle. Like, I've spent most of my life being like, this is who I want. And recently I've realized that a lot of those women, that success that they have has stopped them being able to add anything to my life. Because what they're bringing is money, which I can get, or they're bringing me things I already have.
Right.
And they want me to appreciate them for those things. But then the minute you try to appreciate them for it or lean on them for it, and women, if you're listening, like, you do need to hear this, they then react like that's a bad thing. So like if a woman, for example, is, let's just say that she's being really successful and doing something great, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that you're doing that. That would be useful with this other thing. They're like, well, that's mine, not yours.
Right.
Right. And you're like, okay, but what's mine is yours. How is what's yours not mine? Right. How can we not leverage that? And the minute you attempt to, they get a reaction to it. They get weird about it, right? Or they get very protective over it. And I'm like, I get where you're coming in, that strong, independent woman thing. And, we got to look in America, there are more strong, independent women than ever. A lot of women are choosing to be single. and they're saying like, this is what I want, like good for them. We all know what happens with that. You can look at countries like Japan where people just stop dating. On the flip side, I've started dating women who their goal is to support a man who's worthy. And this is a very different type of woman that I'm now looking for, and they are who I date.
Would you call that a building mindset, a building frame?
It is a supporting, nurturing frame.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these women, it's important to know, they're not gold diggers. They're not after money. Most of them make money, but they're not focused on, I'm a big, strong, independent woman. I've literally dated women that are like, I'm strong and independent. Like they say it.
Mm-hmm.
I like women nowadays. I like women that say, I am strong and I'm not independent.
Right. Wow. Bro, let me jump onto that too.
Yeah.
I used to be the same thing. I dated Olympic athletes,
Mm-hmm.
people that won like silver and gold medals. I've dated actresses like in the movie Transformers. I've dated daughters of famous spiritual gurus. We'll talk about that offline, who this person is. I've had it all. And I used to like go to Sweden back in like 2018, go to Sweden, like find the most accomplished, tall, angelic person possible. And then my experience of that was the same thing. It's like, wow, it was great at a point, but now this like very independence, it's actually a lower level of thinking, because I'm looking for interworking dependent, right? I'm looking for somebody who's like, okay, I have my thing, you have your thing. Let's combine forces like Voltron or like the fucking whatever the Power Rangers thing is, and let's do something good with it. Let's combine our resources. Let's be useful to each other, and then we can both level up and see what happens as a result of that. Not I've leveled up in my life without you, and now I want all of yours too. That just doesn't seem to work because there's nothing in it for me. Because what am I going to get if they're accomplished? If somebody brings me, like I know this one girl, for example, right? She's a makeup artist, very famous makeup artist in movies. If I go to her, am I going to leverage her makeup artist network? That's of completely no use to me.
And to reverse it, what can you bring to her, really? You've got nothing for her. And then everyone's like, well, then it's all the other parts of the relationship. But those other parts of the relationship are missing some core components. And it isn't just about the career, right? Let's look yin and yang, right? Two black fish is no good. You got to have the black and the white.
Why's it got to be racist, bro?
Right?
What's a blackfish? What's that mean?
Wait, so in yin and yang, it's the two fish.
Oh, okay.
They circle each other.
Got
right?
it. I thought it was like a UK like
yeah,
expression.
No, you got the black fish and the white fish, and they circle each other.
Right.
But they need both to be complete.
Right, and they both need a little bit of the white inside and a little bit of the black inside. Just the other little smaller circle.
Everyone needs a little bit of the other color inside them, right?
Yeah.
That's how that works. And so the funny thing is, I really did think that I was trying to find someone just like me, someone who had this. And I thought that was the pinnacle. And people would always say, oh my God, you got that one, good job. But it always ended up with the only component that we could mesh on realistically was in the home. And even then, there was all sorts of issues. So it was funny. I remember people would come to me and be like, man, at home, like you cook, you clean, you raise the kids and you work. So I was like, yo, I have to, because that's how it is. Now, I specifically look for partners that want to support. Not just want to support in the home, that's not what it's about, but support me and vice versa.
Right.
So I get to support them.
Right. So they'll call you and they'll be like, hey, Adam, did you eat lunch today? Just the phone call. And you're like, yeah, I ate. You didn't have to call me. You didn't make the lunch, but you're just checking on me to make sure that I did eat.
It's even better than that. It's like they've set alarms in their phone. Right. And they're like, hey, I noticed you haven't eaten lunch. Here's lunch. I noticed you haven't done this. Here's this. I don't rest on them because, like, for example, I will also, like this morning, I went up, I got myself breakfast, and then I brought breakfast home as well. So it is a truly symbiotic relationship. You become one, not two people as partners, one complete person. And this is interesting, obviously, because I'm poly, because I'm gonna have to explain that as well, because I'm not just looking for that one complete person, which becomes the second trait.